Okay. Perfect. LazRael Lison, I'm super excited to have you today to talk about A Miracle Before Christmas.
Thank you.
And you are a director that you have at least five feature projects under your belt so far, right? Or should I say feature films? The technical terms I never know from directing to producing. How do we what do we call that?
It's actually, man, it's about 5 or 6. One of them, kind of lose count at this point. I lose count, but that sounds about right.
Nice. Well, first I want to obviously get in about Miracle Before Christmas, but then I also want to get your journey and let everybody understand where you came from, how you are as a director, all of that good stuff, right?
Okay.
So with A Miracle Before Christmas, how do you get in the mindset of directing this type of I'll call it a holiday rom-com almost.
Yeah. Man, I always tell people, you write based off experiences,
Mhm.
oftentimes. And what the people that I think that don't get enough credit nowadays are when you think about the Best Man's type movie, all those, it was because it's so many successful Black families out here,
Mhm.
so many successful Black families that oftentimes the news don't ever really focus on them because they always focus on like these people poor over here, these people. No, I'm like, it's a lot of successful
Yeah.
Black people that have similar problems, just like a successful Jewish family or Greek family or
Mhm.
Caucasian family. And I think that, so first off, it comes more from my mindset. First off, that's part of where when you think about the backdrop of the successful family come from. But then, the whole thing with Christmas and miracles and things like that is sometimes we do get lost, just like everybody else. You get lost in your chasing for success. You're chasing for success. And I think that, and how I stay in the mindset of when I'm creating whatever movie, whether it's Christmas or thriller, I always get lost into the music of the genre.
Mhm.
So I listen to, man, I think this whole year, it's been Christmas for me the whole year because I've been listening to Christmas, Temptations, I mean, just everything you can imagine, Anthony Hamilton, on everything on the Pandora when it come down to Christmas, and that keeps me in that creative, constant mindset.
Nice. And I had the opportunity to watch the film, which is great, not to give any spoilers alert as this goes up on our YouTube and website. But I do want to talk about, when you said about the backdrops of scene, right? There's the best scene, and I was just saying it on the previous interview, that I love the scene when you have the two couples talking about careers, right? And you have the two women excited, but you have the two men kind of looking like, let's just have a good time, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you have this, and it flips the roles in a reverse, right? Because as men, if me and you are talking about careers in front of everybody, it's great. We're just excited, we're
Mm-hmm.
passionate, but when we see the two women and you see the two men, you see this like kind of this double standard where it's like, come on, let's just enjoy, the man's like, let's just have so when you're shooting, when you're directing, when it's writing, when it's all these things taking in place, how are you able to have the create these subtleties where these nuances which we can take from the moment, from the scene?
Honestly, it starts with the actors being in tune with the characters. LeToya, I mean, man, I can't say enough about her. I can't say enough about, LeToya, Romeo Miller, amazing, Demetri Ship Jr., Mr. Tupac, Portia Coleman. It's like, fortunately for me, is that by the time they all came to the table, they understood the characters.
Nice.
Miss LeToya understood Mercedes right. Romeo understood. He's such a sweet, amazing person, Romeo, and he understood Matthew, and they embodied the spirit of each of these characters. So it made it so much easier when you get there to like, because there was times Miss LeToya was like saying, "Lost, Mercedes wouldn't do that." Like she wouldn't wear that. So as a director, I've gotten to a point where it was a couple just one little story I remember, because in my mind, the director, you like, okay, I want costumes came out, and costume was like, we got two options for we got two options for Mercedes, but she wants to wear this dress here, not this white one you said. I'm like, okay, let me go talk to her. So I marched back there. I'm like, I said, okay. Then she said, Mercedes wouldn't wear that. I said, tell me why.
Nice.
And she told me why. She said, Mercedes will wear this. I said, okay, as long as you had a reason why you was telling me she wouldn't wear that and she'll wear this, I love it. Like, I love it. And that's the connection with the character that, directors, when they've been doing it for a while, is all about a family, creating a team. And you don't want to be, if I'm the director there telling all the actors like what their character should do on every step, that means that I don't have the right actors, because the actors hadn't done their homework. And I love to have actors, first off, that are really amazing, but that also have embodied the spirit. I put the words on paper,
Yeah.
but they bring the soul to the character, and that's when you know you got something.
Nice. I love that. Just had a recent interview with Royal Ivy King from All American Homecoming, and there's
Mhm.
a part where he said that he said I had to tell the I had to tell the director and the producer, like, no, my people wouldn't say it that way, and it hit gold because it became like a meme on with Black Twitter, right? So it's
Mhm.
funny you said that. Is that what you look for? Do you look for actors to come in and give you some of those feedback? Like, does that let you know? Like, do you? I would say more so like, let's say you're on set and it's just they're just running through lines, everybody. Do you prefer that, or do you love it when they come with reason to say, hey, LazRael, no, this my character wouldn't say it that way, or she wouldn't
Oh,
walk that way, or she wouldn't respond that way?
by the time they're casted and they got the role and they come in the set, I prefer that.
Yeah,
I
nice.
prefer them to, because I can only put the words on paper, but you look for talent to bring it to life,
Yeah.
to give it a soul, to bring it off the paper. That's why at this point in my career, people are like, did you write that? I forget I wrote it. Because the bottom line is, if I can sit here and say, oh, I wrote all these in my words, then I probably didn't do it. At this point in my career,
Yeah.
I don't take much pride in that, because when you get exceptional actors, man, I'd be so blown away by the talent. Sometimes I sit back there like, wow. Like, that's when you know you got it. And on this film, it was so much of that. It was so much, man. If I sat here and sat here and said that and take the credit for every little small nuance that LeToya did, uh, I honestly can't take credit, because she understood the character.
Yeah.
Now, she said the words 98% of the time what I wrote, but it's the subtleties that she, as an amazing actress,
Mm-hmm.
bring to the table. And that's why she's been doing it for as long as she has.
Nice. I did tell her that. I said it's like they probably have us the sides, and it really says on the side, please have a LeToya, and then they're probably just saying, let's get LeToya.
Yeah, and I think that the great thing about it, man, people have seen her act, but I think that my whole goal with this is that they would just see how much of an amazing with this. I mean, I can't say enough. I can't say enough.
No, I love it. For why this film for you though? Why this project? What do you look for at the same time? So those are it's like two questions in one, right? Why this film? And what films or what things on paper, what really like speaks to you that says, I'm going to do this, you know, because I know you probably reject probably a lot of different things. You're like, no, no, or
I went through this transformation, man, when I had kids, when I had my first when I had twins. And it really made me just want to do stuff that some of my earlier films, some things that, especially when I did a psychological thriller, some of the concept I probably wouldn't want to do those now. But it's a thing that, man, I want to do something that's because I come from a mainstream, like with a lot of the films I've done in the past. And it was just so different. But I try to bring that over here to whatever film I do, try to bring it over here. And I want to do something, a Christmas movie with African Americans leads that kind of like you hadn't seen done like this. That's why people say, "What is this film like?" I said, "Have you ever seen The Family Man? Have you ever seen A Wonderful Life?" I said, "It's kind of like a mixture."
yeah,
And you tell some African Americans, not all of them, they like, I never seen A Family Man. Yeah. But if you mention that to somebody white, yes, I've seen it. That's enough right there. But
exactly.
I wanted to bring that over here to show, show us is like, mainly this is just the way I embody. So that's the reason why I choose certain projects like this, because I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed like watching true love unfold on set. I love the journey, and yes, I do turn down quite a few projects that don't move me. So it's got to have heart first off. I don't care what it is. It has to have heart.
Yeah.
It has to have heart to it.
Nice. Is there anything else that you're looking for? Because a lot of times when and just a preference, I love interviews like this because anyone who's listening and seeing it and who may be thinking about I want to pitch this to somebody, right? And they never know why they're getting turned down. So if someone's pitching it to you, if someone's like saying like, oh man, I want him to like, take this on, what are some of the things outside of just having heart?
Well, I think that whatever you do need to be well written. Need to be well written. Don't bring a Marvel film trying to get it done for a couple $1 million. First off, you got to know you have to. I like thrillers. I like thrillers. I like action, drama. Just basically know. Don't bring a $40 million film that you say, okay, you can do it for like $1 million or $2 million.
Mm,
Things like that. But I just think first off, make sure whatever you do is well written. Uh, um, and that's what I say, because it's hard to say, like, because once you read something, if somebody send me something and it's well written, really well written, not just they think is well written, but actually something that's you know that's written well. Like it's
mhm.
written well. It's a great story. Um, I think it's hard for me to say what I'm not interested in because I've done so much.
Yeah.
I've done so much, but whatever it is, it all comes back to, with me personally, it has to have heart. Because when you we go back, say 20 years, 30 years, when you look at movies like Boys in the Hood, right? Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, even though the backdrop of the movie was in the hood, but it had heart. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? It wasn't like people were just dying for no reason. It had heart. It had a message that was powerful to it. And that just come from like experience as far as writing.
Nice. When and because I want people to be able to take away, especially from someone who's worked on these things and has the experience and the background and knowledge, because
Mhm.
it's Hollywood or it's just this world. People write something and like you said, they'll say, "Hey, I can do it for $1 million," even though you're like, "This is a $40 million, this is a $40 million script you're giving me." When you say well written, what does that mean? Because sometimes I think people think well written means, oh, the grammar's perfect, and that's not. I don't feel like that's what you're really telling me right now.
Well, I mean, one, that's one of the reasons, but I just think like be realistic about your expectations. One, if you ain't never done anything, oftentimes, I just think well written means like, okay, if you one, know your budget. Let's go back to that right there. Know your budget. Obviously, if a film is $2 million, you ain't about to go that. You ain't about to go to Africa, then France, and then do all these things. So, you want to me, the key to great writing, with except one, this one thing I felt so free when I did my first novel, right? I'm like, wow, I can put all these locations in there and I ain't got to worry about no cost of this or cost of that. That was so refreshing to me when I did a novel. But then when it come down to doing a screenplay, you have to tell the most effective story in limited amount of locations. That's the key. That's the key right there. But yet the story need to be so compelling that even somebody like uh, a Will Smith, right? Just say if somebody he passed the time on the airport and saw it, is it interesting enough for him to see it, for him to read it, and sit down and get lost in the story? That's a lot of pressure. But when you think about Hollywood and you think about the amount of competition you got, you know, you got to have that pressure. You got to have that to be great. What is it about your story that's going to make somebody drop what they're doing to want to read yours? Because whether people want to understand or not, it's a whole lot of competition out here.
Yeah.
Whole lot of competition, and your story about you went through this struggle here in life and then you got saved.
So like them Shark Tank episodes where they always cry at the end, like,
Yeah,
"Can I
yeah,
tell
yeah.
y'all my story real quick?"
Yeah, because fortunately, like I always tell people, like you may have been on drugs and then you turn your life over to Jesus. I get that, but people be like, but what did you accomplish? like, what is that like? Did you become a millionaire? No, I just got saved. And like people, it's about, man, what's the ending goal? What's your realistic expectations? And not and understand that everybody that critique you ain't hating.
Yeah.
That's the thing we have to separate real criticism from somebody being a hater.
Yeah.
Because just because somebody say, hey, I don't think this is a great story, that don't mean they're a hater. You know? That means, like, especially if you ain't been doing it that long, if you ain't been doing it, you've been doing it 3 years, somebody else been doing it 20 years. So maybe they got a little bit more insight on, you know, what it takes. Hope I'm not rambling too much.
No, 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 that's great. I love it. I love it. I think that's important. I mean, you're hitting on a lot of important notes, especially like you said, because some people write from their experiences. And even you think about people who start businesses, right? They're like, well, I'm using my great grandmama recipes or I'm home cooking friends. We're like, you should go into business for yourself. And then the problem is it's like you said, where it's like, okay, you have this incredible journey, but what are you accomplishing? There's a business to it at the end of it. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't just write the story of, a dark past and then say, well, at the end, I'm still saving. You're like, but where was it in between that your pursuit of happiness, right? Like a pursuit of happiness, or where we need that part. We need you to be
Exactly.
here changing in the bathroom, trying to make it on Wall Street still. Like,
Exactly.
so, so I
Exactly. And
think
that's
that's
what people.
important. And you mentioned the novel, writing. So can you give me and the viewers even a background behind you and how you got to where you are right now, your origin story?
I was just one of those kids that I started writing when I was about an avid writer, like with poetry and everything, since I was 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
So that was my escape coming from. I grew up in a small town in Arkansas called Winchester, Arkansas. I grew up there, and I just always had this passion for writing and doing plays and doing, rapping and all that. So I probably did that religiously, man. I probably wrote every day for at least 8 years, all the way to college. I just always be writing something. And then, I went to the University of Arkansas where I like went there for football. And I went there but I couldn't, I still had that longing, man. I was like this big dude, the only dude on the sideline that was like out there for the game, but yet I'm thinking about a poetry recital that night. You know, maybe that's a sign you're in the wrong business, right?
Yeah.
And so basically, so eventually I relocated to California, relocated out here, and the journey began. And through trial and error, I kept, the thing about me is I was too naive to know, I just kept going. I kept going 100 miles per hour. And then at around 24, I did my very first short film, and, and just kept going. And that's kind of like where, along the way, I think like I always tell people, nothing is wrong with like, because I think I quit the business, at least verbally. I think verbally, I probably quit the business 100 times. I'm like, I can't do this no more. Then 5 minutes later, you're back doing it again. And so, and then it was like, and then, I just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. And I always tell people, when no one want to hear your excuses, you know what I'm saying? Because most people that are successful, if you listen to their stories, they went through a lot. They went through a lot. So my biggest thing is my ego was always too big to quit, because I'm like, it ain't no way I'm a quit. Then all of a sudden I'm gonna look up and see all the people that was along my journey,
Yeah.
then got successful. So I just kept going. And then, like they always say, when you finally get to that end of your rope, that's when the door opened. Because I had this one film I was doing. I'm like, this is it. This is my last film. I'm not losing no more money. la, la, la.
Oh, you muted. No, it's messing up again. See.
Yes. What about now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yes. What about now? Good.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes, I said like
You said
when
you're
I
not gonna lose
finally,
no more money.
yeah, I said this is my last project. I'm not trying to lose no more money. And then, but what I did was I operated that project strategically, and that's the project that broke. That's the project that actually put me on the course of where I am right now. So right when you at that point, when like you done did everything you could. Like some people feel like I've done everything I can. I done done everything I can. But like, did you go over there? No, I didn't do that. Did you go over there? No, I didn't do that. So you hadn't done everything you can. You
Yeah.
hadn't done everything you can. So right when I reached that point right there, after many years, that's when all of a sudden the floodgates opened for me, which ultimately got me to where I am now.
Nice. One thing you said that stood out, right? You said that was a project you operated intentionally. Can you elaborate on that for me?
Yeah, when I did that, I went into it with a plan of, okay, I'm like, okay, I want to get this person in there. That was the project called Never and Again. I
Mhm.
started even though I didn't have a relationship with the network, I wanted to really work with people that I really admired. You know what I'm saying? I really admire. And those were, and I wrote it for a specific reason. I added some faith-based elements in it. And I had this ultimate vision of I at that time I'm like, man, I want to develop this with BET.
Mhm.
And I never had no access to BET. But I said I had that in my mind, and once I did the project, that's who I ultimately sold it to at that time, to BT. And we had other offers too from other networks, but I wanted BT.
Yeah. Nice. I love that. I want to be conscious of your time, so we have like 10 minutes left, always like, because I know you're busy. When it comes to this journey for you, right? And you were talking about like selling its networks. How did you, after like, you said you first started in a very naive way. We all do that, right? Everybody's our best friend. Everybody has the answers.
Oh my
Looking for
God.
those answers outside of ourselves instead of us being the masters of our faith. We
Mhm.
gave it away to everybody.
Half of the mistakes we make is because we listen to other people. That honestly, I think majority of my early mistakes is because other people that didn't know anything that said they was experienced were telling us that. So,
Exactly.
mhm.
When you said about like selling, right? Selling it to BET, what does that look like when people are trying to sell the networks? Because it's one of those things where nowadays everyone, after seeing Issa Rae take off, you have, I think it's great we have representation in like, seeing so many like yourselves, but then also with social media and FOMO, people are like, okay, let me write. I want to do this. I want to sell to it. You know what I mean? Everyone feels like they should be doing it too.
Yeah, and again, it's like again, it comes down to people waking up one day and like, oh, I'm a writer. Don't work like that. If everybody could do it, then it wouldn't be a business. If it was that easy, remember, like, if it's that easy, it's got to be a catch to it because it's never ever that easy because it's avenues for people if they just want to do a film. But at the end of the day, when you want to get stuff to them other levels, you have to have oftentimes the experience and you have to have the budget.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can't, and I've seen, and when I travel to different places, everybody think they got an Oscar winner. First off, I'm like, okay, that's a red flag right there. But they got an Oscar winner with their cousin playing lead, or they got an Oscar winner with their girlfriend playing lead, or their mama playing the school teacher. I'm like, the acting is bad. You don't want to discourage people's dreams, but what that is I remember when I first started, some of the best advice someone gave me was when they turned down I wanted to hire them for something, but I didn't have any money. And they turned me down. And they said, they didn't turn me down a negative way. They just say, I look forward to working with you in the future. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because it ain't so much about where you are now, it's where you're gonna be
Right.
if you stay persistent. Because most people, just like with anything, they jump on the train, and when it don't work for them on the first couple of things, they ready to quit.
Yeah.
This business is about growth. This business is about like consistency.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't have, consistency. Your first film, whether you believe it or not, if you have no experience, your first film ain't that great. I'm being real. It's not that great. The acting ain't that great. And it's hard to tell people that in the moment because they think that's the greatest thing, but people pay you based off the value they said the film. And if
Yeah.
ain't nobody paying you in a network, it's because they don't see much value in it. And nothing is wrong with that because you're going to feel the same way when you look back at it if you stay consistent.
Nice.
I look at my earlier stuff, I'm like, wow, that's pretty bad. But it was nice. It's better than a lot of these people films I see out here. But it wasn't, it was where I was at that time.
Yeah.
But you look up 10 years later, 15 years later, it's a whole different mindset.
Nice. I love that. I just one last question. This has been great. I love it. I love hearing it from a directorial standpoint, looking at films, writers, actors. I always like people to take something away. They take a lot of gems away, but I always want to make sure they take something really, really powerful and positive for them. People, like, let's say if I was a writer, I'm getting a group of friends, and we don't have a budget, right? Or we can't. What should they do if they don't have a budget, or if they're trying to sell something and they don't really have experience, but they're trying to, get funding for it? What is something that people can do that, like, can at least get them going to make some type of noise?
Write something amazing. Write something really, really amazing. Now, that's a very broad statement,
Yeah.
but something that's so compelling, like oftentimes it's so interesting to me because, I glance at Tubi every now and then.
For guilty pleasures.
Yeah, no, because I actually, because I just have it, but I don't necessarily like watch all the movies that's there. 'Cause they do have some big budget stuff on there too. But it amazes me that oftentimes, when people want to do something for the first time, the first thing they do is go to the street stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And in our culture, they go to like the killing and the drive-bys and things like that. I wouldn't advise that. I wouldn't advise that. I think you gotta think a little bit more deeper.
Hmm.
Think a little bit more deeper when you want to tell your story. Find out what's your niche, what audience are you trying to like pull in. That's the most important thing. What's your ultimate objective with this? Now when people say they want to start writing their first screenplay, do they know how? Are they familiar with final draft? How are they writing their scripts? That says a lot right there in the sense of like when you want to get professional people to read it, it need to be written professionally, like
Yeah.
in writing software and things like that. And I just say, man, honestly, I always say this, right? This is a better example. Look at the movies that have won Academy Awards, right? Look at the movies that have won Academy Awards. I'm not saying that you trying to make your film win an Academy Award, but a lot of times the Academy Awards be dramas, right? They be
Hmm.
dramas. So dramas don't cost a lot of money. But look at the subject matters a lot of times. And then write something compelling that make people feel something like that. Because that's a little bit more outside the box, I think. And that's something little because I think oftentimes a heart reaches a heart.
Yeah.
Hearts look beyond. I could make you feel something without a budget. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And you don't need a budget oftentimes to do a certain type of drama.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But just make sure it's shot well and make sure it's written well. Written well and know who your audience is that you're trying to reach. That helps. And then, and I think having something to show people that's really good is the first thing that'll really get you to second base when you deal with people because people, because we're in a time now of we're in a time now of elevation, with everything.
Hmm.
And you look back at how, and I just like to use this example. I like to use certain examples, but you look in movies that African Americans were into 30 years ago, you see like a lot now, if they came out again, especially when it's certain hood stuff, they're not into it no more. So it's about constant elevation. And I think that when we do movies, you have to know what your objective is because tastes do change. And I think that as a whole, our culture at this point is like, we better than that. We better than that. And
Yeah.
I always say that black people is a tough audience because they will keep it real, huh? Before they watch it.
Exactly. They go the preview, the social, your poster, your graphic. Even chose to be in it, if anything, and then don't let Black Twitter come in there because then Black Twitter gonna find.
Oh my God, that's what they always say. I think that a lot of people are afraid of Black Twitter.
Yeah,
because let me tell you, that's who. When you think about this whole Jeffrey Dahmer Netflix phenomenon, right? Black Twitter is the one that made that movie big.
Yeah.
That's how I found out about it. They like, girl, you need to watch the Jeffrey Dahmer fool. Yeah. And then, you know, but that's who blew it up. Yeah. That's who really blew that movie up, you know? And so, but yeah, I hope that answered your question right there.
No, it definitely did. No, it definitely did. Thank you. It gives it, you know, puts a lot of things into perspective, you know, and I think it's just something that a lot of aspiring writers, actors, producers, directors, film guys, you know, all the nines, because everybody wants to one day be in that seat or be around others in that seat. And like you were saying, it really takes a village to make all these things come together. So, you know, with you really put into perspective about how everyone has to play their part diligently, you know, and intentionally, you know, as an actor.
It was this kid, it was this guy that when we was doing this Miracle Before Christmas, we were doing the movie. One of the other producers on the film said, I got this guy, he's about 23. He want to come on and be an assistant, right? He want to come on and be an assistant. And he was like, so the guy came out, I hate to say, I don't know what I was thinking when I said kid. I was thinking like 19 for a minute. Then I realized his age. But he was about 23, maybe 24. He came on set and the guy worked so hard. He was like to the point like, you need this, you need that. So basically my whole point is he came in, showed his value so much that everybody was like, is he gonna be here today? Is he gonna be here today? That's the whole point of success. No matter what position you come in at, you come in and you bust your tail.
Yeah. You
bust your tail and people see your value and they want to go all out for you. Yep. They want to go all out for you. So everybody can't come in and be the pastor of the church. They can't come in the church. But if you come in as a member and you go in and you basically work and do everything, especially when, in this particular guy, he wanted to gain experience. But man, he left an impression so much because of his hard work, and he was always where he needed to be. He wasn't over there goofing off, talking with other PAs. He wasn't doing any of that. He was just over there like working hard, man, every step of the way, working hard. And he's somebody like, I'm like, I was so impressed. I'm like, man, I want to, whatever I'm doing, I want to keep elevating this guy, because I know the next film, he ain't going to be like this person anymore, but you want to see his growth, because in this business, it's about, again, it's about where you're going to be. I've yet to see a person that I worked with that was very, very talented, very, very driven, very, very good, that they stayed in that place 5 years from now. Oftentimes, if you're really, really good, somebody's going to grab you up. Yeah. Somebody's going to grab you up, and you're going to be, because people want to work with the best people.
Yeah.
And they want to help the best people, because, you know, at some point, everybody's going to grow up and eventually do their own thing, but you want to work with the best people. And that's what I tell people. Don't be afraid to grow. Don't be afraid to get better. Lose the ego, because in film, it's about a family. Yeah. It ain't a competition. It's a marathon. Yeah. It's about everybody coming there, and man, if somebody work hard and somebody good at what they do, I'm 100% behind them.
Nice. I love that. I love that. I know we're out of time, and I really appreciate you dropping a lot of knowledge and gems, as they say, when it comes to this industry in such a way that people can just realize it's about hard work, it's about consistency, it's about networking, it's about showing up and showing out, and just being true to your word, but also being open to criticism, but understanding if the criticism is coming from the right person.
Mhm. Exactly, exactly. Look at what they've achieved.
Yeah.
Like,
I
it
love
has,
that. I love
it has
that.
to be from it had you gotta all experience lets you know where how to discern where it's coming from, like it can't be from a place of hatred. It can't be from a person can't criticize your script if they don't even read scripts.
Yep.
And that's what I'm talking about. So it's about like at this point, like when I write something, the people that read it oftentimes are people that's in the business, and that's what they do is read scripts. And then even sometimes I'm like, man, I don't want to change that. But I think the more experience you get, when you put something down that's intentional, and when you put something down that you're more flexible with, like even when we was on this movie, it was some things that LeToya and them suggested. I'm like, oh my God, I love that. But then it was some things like, no, I'm not changing that. It's about knowing where you're flexible at and knowing what's intentional and knowing what's not.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for all of this knowledge. I enjoyed myself. I hope you enjoyed yourself as
I
well.
did. I did.
Thank you.